She was listed as Kia. But Reaper Zero never misses, and she came back for blood. Her name appeared on a government list exactly once, not a commendation, not a promotion, a death certificate. Killed in action. Operation Black Veil. No remains recovered. Case closed. The Pentagon stamped it. The Ministry of Defense confirmed it. 2 governments, 1 story, and not a single soul questioned it. Because that's how they wanted it. They buried her name in 6 layers of classified archives, wiped her service record from the database, and told her family she died a hero in a mission that, officially, never happened. What they didn't plan for was that she was still breathing, and that the woman they erased, the one with 231 confirmed neutralizations, the one enemy spotters whispered about in 3 different languages, the one they called Reaper Zero, had a very long memory, and an even longer range. This is not a story about a soldier. This is a story about what happens when the most dangerous sniper alive finds out her own country pulled the trigger on her. Stay with me, because this one doesn't end the way they planned. Her real name was Lieutenant Callahan, Maya Callahan, born in Bristol, England, raised in Virginia after her family relocated when she was 9. Dual citizen by paperwork, soldier by choice. She joined the United States Army at 18, not because someone told her to, not because she had no other options, but because she was the kind of person who walked toward danger when everyone else was running away. By 23, she had qualified as a designated marksman. By 25, she held the highest sniper accuracy rating in her unit. By 26, she was recruited into a program so classified it didn't have an official name in any document you could legally access. They called it Phantom Reach. 7 operators, hand-picked, no rank, no insignia, no traceable orders. They deployed into situations that didn't exist: kidnapping extractions, high-value neutralizations, intelligence recoveries in places where sending conventional forces would trigger international incidents. They were ghosts before they ever fired a shot, and Maya, the one they called Reaper Zero inside the program, was the best of them. She didn't just shoot. She understood wind patterns like a meteorologist, calculated Coriolis drift before computers told her to, and had a stillness when she lay behind a scope that her instructor once described as inhuman, not mechanical, not robotic. Precise in the way a surgeon is precise, with full awareness of what she was doing and why. Her longest confirmed shot was 3,800 meters, until the night she hit 4,200. But nobody was supposed to know about that one. Because that was the night everything fell apart. The operation was called Black Veil. Officially, it was a counter-terrorism sweep in northern Syria. Unofficially, it was something far more specific, a targeted extraction of a British intelligence asset who had been captured and was hours away from being transferred to a location where recovery would become impossible. The asset's name was James Aldred. He was MI6, 17 years of fieldwork. He knew the names of deep cover operatives across 4 continents. If the wrong people got hold of him, if he was broken, people would die. Dozens of them, maybe more. Maya's team was given 18 hours, 6 operators on the ground, 1 extraction window, no backup, standard Phantom Reach conditions. She remembered the briefing like a still photograph. 7 faces around a table in a basement in Amman. Maps on the wall, red zones, entry vectors. A photograph of Aldred, pale and thin, taken by a drone 2 days earlier through the roof of a compound outside Raqqa. Get him out. Clean and quiet. Nobody finds out we were there. They went in on a moonless night. 2 vehicles, civilian plates, communication running on a frequency that wasn't supposed to exist. Maya took position on a ridge 2,400 meters from the compound, scope trained on the courtyard below. Everything was going to plan. Until it wasn't. At 02:14 local time, as the extraction team breached the eastern wall, the compound lit up. Not enemy response, there was no scramble, no alarm, no sign of surprise. The lights simply came on. Calmly, deliberately. And 40 armed men walked out of positions they had clearly been holding for hours. It wasn't a coincidence. It was an ambush. Maya's radio crackled. 0. We've got a problem. Then gunfire. Then screaming. Then static. She lay behind her rifle and did the only thing she could do. She started eliminating targets, one breath at a time. 12 shots, 12 drops. But there were too many. Way too many for one operator on a ridge. Her team was surrounded. The last transmission she heard was 6 words from her team lead, Sergeant Donahue. 0. They knew we were coming. Then the line went dead. Maya fired her 13th shot. Then her 14th. Her shoulder ached, her eye burned, and somewhere below her in that burning courtyard, her entire team was being systematically erased. At some point during the firefight, accounts differ on when exactly an RPG round struck the ridge 30 meters from her position. The shockwave threw her 8 feet into the air. She hit the ground hard, blacked out, and rolled down the ravine into a dry riverbed. When she woke up, it was almost dawn. Her rifle was gone. Her radio was destroyed. Her left arm was fractured, and there was blood in her ear. And somewhere above her, the compound was silent. It took her 11 days to walk out. 11 days through hostile territory on one functional arm with no communications, no supplies beyond what she could scavenge, and a fracture that got worse every mile. She crossed into Turkey on foot. She contacted a British consulate contact using a dead-drop protocol she'd memorized 3 years earlier but never used. She kept her identity hidden, her name unspoken, using only a code phrase that should have triggered an immediate and quiet extraction. Instead, she waited 4 days. When they finally sent someone, it wasn't a rescue team. It was a single man in a gray suit who handed her a fabricated passport, a burner phone with one number saved in it, and told her in a flat, measured tone that she needed to disappear for a while. She asked about her team. He said they were all dead. She asked about the investigation. He said there wasn't one. She asked why. He said because the mission didn't happen, and neither did you. Then he left. That was when she understood. She pulled up every resource she still had access to, old contacts, encrypted back channels, former operatives who owed her favors. It took weeks, but piece by piece the picture came together. The ambush hadn't been an intelligence failure. The compound had been tipped off. Someone inside the chain of command, someone with full access to the mission brief, the insertion timeline, the frequency they were using, had passed it to the enemy. Not for ideology, not for politics, for money. A defense contractor deal worth nearly $400 million tied to regional destabilization contracts signed 3 months after Blackveil. The same contractor that had quietly funded the political campaigns of 2 senior officials, one in Washington, one in Whitehall. Her team hadn't been sent on a mission, they had been sent to die. And the man who signed the order, the man who handed her team to the wolves and then processed the paperwork to list them all as killed in action, was Deputy Director Leonard Voss. 29 years in the intelligence community. 2 presidential commendations. A reputation so spotless it was practically surgical. Maya Callahan sat in a rented room in Marseille and stared at his photograph for a very long time. Then she began to plan. She spent 8 months rebuilding. New identity, new cover. She relocated to Edinburgh, close enough to London to move quickly, far enough to stay invisible. She worked a civilian job, nothing that required a background check, nothing that left a digital trail. But in the early mornings, before anyone was awake, she drove out to the Scottish Highlands and she practiced. An old bolt action she'd sourced through channels that didn't ask questions. Targets set at extreme distances in every weather condition she could find. Rain, wind, frozen fields, low light. She recalibrated everything. Every old instinct, every calculation. She wasn't healing, she was preparing. At the same time, she tracked Voss. His movements, his schedule, his security detail, 4 close protection officers, 2 vehicles, a route that varied but always ended at the same private members club in Kensington on Thursday evenings. She noted every variable, every pattern, every window, literal and figurative. And she found the one detail that mattered. Once a year, Voss attended a private defense summit at a rural estate in Wiltshire. Off-grid, off-calendar. No official record of his attendance, no media. Reduced security because he believed the location was unknown. It wasn't unknown to her. She arrived 4 days early. She moved into position on a hillside 2,100 meters from the estate, dug into the earth like she had been planted there, and she waited. Reaper Zero was never impatient. She was simply ready. The evening of the summit arrived cold and overcast. From her position, Maya watched the estate through her scope with the same stillness she'd had her whole career. A ghost in a hillside. Undetectable. Unhurried. At 1947, Voss stepped onto the terrace. He was laughing. Whatever the conversation was, he found it amusing. A glass of something amber in his hand. Relaxed shoulders. The posture of a man who believed consequences were for other people. She steadied her breathing. Inhale. She adjusted for the wind, 7 knots, left to right, slight gust from the south every 40 seconds. Exhale. She calculated the drop at this distance. The temperature. The barometric pressure she'd been recording since morning. Stillness. Her finger rested against the trigger. And then she paused. Not from hesitation, not from fear, but because she had made a decision, a different kind of decision about what kind of ending this would be. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a hard drive. Everything she had gathered over 8 months, every document, every financial transfer, every contact between Voss and the contractor, every thread that connected the Black Veil ambush to his desk. She had already sent a copy to 3 journalists, 2 in the United States, 1 in Britain. Encrypted. Set to deliver automatically in 48 hours unless she canceled the send. She wasn't going to cancel it. She watched Voss through the scope one more moment. And then she fired. Not at him. 2 centimeters to his left. The glass in his hand shattered. The amber liquid splashed across his shirt. He spun, dropped, scrambled, and his security detail erupted in chaos. But the shot had done exactly what she intended. Because attached to the round, micro-threaded, almost invisible, was a small memory chip. It rolled to a stop beside his hand in the chaos. He picked it up instinctively, and on that chip, in a single audio file, was her voice. "I know what you did in Black Veil. My team knows. And in 48 hours, the world will know. You have one option left. Confess. Because Reaper Zero never misses, and if I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead." This was a warning. The next one won't be. Leonard Voss resigned 4 days later. The official statement cited health reasons. 3 weeks after that, an anonymous data leak published what the press called the most detailed whistleblower case in intelligence history. Congressional hearings in Washington. A parliamentary inquiry in London. Names. Dates. Wire transfers. All of it. The contractor's deal collapsed overnight. And somewhere in all of that documentation, buried in the appendix of a heavily redacted intelligence review, 6 names appeared for the first time in any public record. The 6 members of Phantom Reach. Not as casualties, not as ghosts, as soldiers. No medals were given, no ceremony was held. Likely none ever will be. That's not how this world works for people like them. But their names were there. In print. On the record. Acknowledged. General Harriman, who had quietly been building a case against Voss for 2 years, found a single handwritten note on his desk the morning after the leak broke. No name, no signature, just 5 words in clean, steady handwriting. "We never missed, RZ," he framed it. And somewhere out there, in the Highlands or a ridge in the Atlas Mountains or a hillside in the Scottish borders, a woman with fractured memories and an unbroken aim watches the world she quietly rearranged continue to turn. They listed her as Kia. They should have known better. Reaper Zero never misses. And she came back for blood, just not the kind they expected.